So this video is probably not going to make sense to a lot of people. Um, it's really only going to apply to people who are like me, pretty much. And I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll make sense. But this is kind of something that I thought it kind of it all came together in my mind. I think it was months ago, and then I lost sight of it. But now it all hit me again, and it all pretty much made sense. And that's, I guess, I don't know exactly what the title of the video is, but it's you have to do everything as if it doesn't matter, because it pretty much doesn't. And it's kind of, to me, that's kind of sad, but it's just the reality. And what I mean by that, this is a little bit going to tie into my previous video relating to speed and art. I usually don't like to talk about plans or what I'm going to do or what I want to do. I like to just do them because, well, for a lot of reasons. But it's in that video I was talking about how you can take one of a few paths, and well, the path I've been on, it just hasn't really been working, and it doesn't really make sense, because the way that I draw it, my typical way is I spend, well, here, to me, drawing quality is on a spectrum. And it's not this simple, but it's one way of looking at it. It's kind of how I view it. And it's all based on time spent. So, it's pretty simple. The longer you spend, generally, the better quality you can make. And with the comic I'm on now, I just made the choice early on, without knowing any better. I will take extra time, and I'll take that gamble that, it'll produce better art, not necessarily a better comic, not necessarily a better story. We're just assuming those things are as good as I can get them. We're just talking about this right now, right? Because, in that video, I appreciate all the comments, but there's plenty of people saying, oh, well, you didn't consider this. It's not about that. It's about consistency. Oh, it's not about that. It's about, what are you saying with your art? This, and that. I get that. Like, you think I haven't thought about that? I have. I obsess over this stuff. It's not all I think about, but trust me, I've thought of that. But when you look at what between the two, what matters more, speed or good art? And I'm putting that in quotes because it's, we could talk about that for days, but between the two, you can't do any of that without the speed. You have to do it in a timely fashion to fit the monthly comics system. I ran that into the ground. We get that now. But my point is, I'm really kind of talking in circles here, but trust me, there's a point. I didn't really playing this one out too much, but what I'm trying to get at is it just, at the end of the day, no one cares. Like, I could even point to examples of other comics. Some of the biggest artists in the comic book world right now, but I'm not going to do that because that's, that would be crazy. I'm not going to do that. And I have nothing against them, but they're basically doing what I'm talking about, which is you don't over-obsess over the art. It's not about that. For better or for worse, the average reader doesn't care. They just don't. It doesn't matter how good you make it. It's you can argue with me all you want. This is just a fact. Do comic fans like quality art? Yes, they do. But it's not as big a deal as one might guess. What matters more... Anyway, we're not going to go over that again. The point is, this video and what I'm trying to get to, this mainly suits people like me who, if you're not like this won't make sense. None of this will make sense. But let me try to explain anyway. The way I'm wired, or something about the way my brain works, my reflex is go all out. It doesn't matter what the scenario, but especially with art. I'm mainly talking about art, but it goes to other things too, which is just fully do beyond your best. Like, with this comic, I've been not 100% going all out, but back to the art spectrum thing, the quality of art in it being based on time spent. The average page, I've been going maybe, I don't know, generally 70 to 80% of what I'm capable of. Right? 100 being all out, I can't do any better than that. Whereas the average comic book artist, and we're talking within the US system, if I had to say, well, I mean, it's a range, but generally they probably go more toward, I don't know, 30 to maybe 50, 60 tops. That's what I would say. And so my point is, if you're anything like me, you get pulled to 100. You can't even help it. And so what I'm going to be doing, well, I'm not going to give the full plan, but I'm going to finish this comic, and what I'm going to do, I'm probably going to just plan something entirely new, and I'm going to just go at it letting go. What does your art look like when you just stop trying to make everything perfect? Because no one cares anyway. Even if you go 100%, that doesn't make it a great comic. That doesn't mean people are going to be dying to buy it. Who cares? Right? This is something I'm forcing myself to learn, even though I kind of know it. So what I'm going to do, and I mean, it could kind of change, but it all kind of came to me at once, which is just come up with a new idea, make it pretty straightforward with a solid hook. And the interior art, on that art spectrum go down to closer to like a 60, not 80, not 100, a 60, maybe even 50, and do the best you can. You are forced. I'm going to do it as a challenge, pretty much. I'm forcing myself. You have to do a page in a day. Maybe day and a half if it's like a splash or something like that. And see where it goes from there. Right? And it'll also be fully colored because, well, that's a whole other topic. That I'll probably do a video on too. Another thing in the American comic system, whether you like it or not, and I don't, this is another thing. This is where kind of staying in your own lane or not maybe looking around as much as you should screws you over, which is, I don't know why I didn't realize you have to have your comic colored. You have to. You just have to. But you know what? We'll end that right. We'll end that exact topic right there because that's a whole. I'll do a video on that at some point. But so that's pretty much the game plan. But the covers will be my usual style, like, you know, pretty much as quality as I can make them. And then same thing goes for commissions and covers and stuff like that. And as far as Faceless goes, this comic I'm on volume 2. If in the meantime it happens to get really successful or people are really buying it a lot more, then I'll go back and I'll do that 3rd volume. Otherwise, you know what? No one's buying it anyway. No one cares. And, you know, maybe that's due to the comic, the story and other things not being great. That's possible. But as it is, this formula, it just doesn't work. I mean, I wish it did, but... And, you know, who knows? Maybe down the road, I'll change things up again. But I think the next phase of things... This is kind of the way. You just got to give it a shot. And I was also, this is a slight side topic, but it connects to it, which is, I think, kind of how I was saying, this is only for a specific type of person. Otherwise, you're just not going to get it. I think it's almost related to anxiety or anxious thinking. And what I mean by that is, if you're anxious, pretty much what anxiety is, or the way I understand it, it just boils down to you're afraid of what could happen. You're afraid of the what ifs. So what that does, well, that can kind of manifest in a few different ways, but one of the main ways is you freeze up, or you try to be in control of everything. You try to over control as much as you can. And I think that pours into my art in a way. So like what I'm doing is I'm too rigid. I'm too trying to control every last little thing, make it as good as I possibly can. And then you're left, you know, realizing that doesn't, you know, it might, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily make for good art, but it's not a solution. It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to, and the more I look at it, that it kind of seems like that's part of what it is. I mean, yes, has my art evolved, you know, in a way? Yes. But in a lot of ways, I've gone down this weird path where it's just too, I don't know, it's almost, and that doesn't mean, I'm not saying don't try. I'm not saying that being, the word is not really coming to me at the moment, but I'm not saying don't, essentially what I'm saying is don't, with this next step of things, it's going to be about letting go. Stop, fight. You're gonna have to stop being the way you are, essentially. You're gonna have to stop, because that just does not work. So what I'm saying is, I've taken a path. I've picked a path. I mean, things could change, but more than likely, this is the way I'm going. And now, who knows? Maybe this path will not be for me either. But I'm gonna go down that way and just, try this out, if this even makes sense. But and part of what's led me here is basically the realization that this way that I have been doing things, I don't know, I almost just feel forced down this road, because you can spend all this time and do all this effort on a comic book or 4 issues of a comic book and have people give it terrible reviews, people not really buy it. You sink all this time and effort into what a lot of the rest of the world views as essentially nothing, and you're just left questioning why you did that. You know what I mean? So I have to almost rewire my brain to view it as nothing also. And I mean, make of that what you will, but I'm retraining my mind to, comic books at the end of the day, I love them, but what they really are is, it's 20-something pages of paper stapled together that somebody scribbled on, sometimes in a beautiful way, but they made that thing in a month and sold it for what now is typically $4 to $5, right? So it just doesn't really make sense. Trust me, I don't want it to be this way. I'm just, like I said, it feels as if I'm being forced to adapt to this. And I don't know why it's taken me this long to realize it, but it's like you either change to fit that and try that, or you just leave. You just leave the whole thing, because the way I've been doing it, that doesn't make sense. So, I mean, let me know what you think. I don't know if any of this really even makes sense, or if anyone relates to it in any way, or am I just sounding crazy? But yeah, that's pretty much where my mind's at when it comes to this comic book art stuff. Yeah. All right.